this is Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. Today I am working on another one of the samples of the small whole cloth quilt that I had made for demonstration for the local long arm quilters. When doing a demonstration, you usually have a couple of samples in different phases, and this was one that had all the trapunto done and cut out. So the trapunto batting cut out. But now I have two quilts that are pretty much the same, so I want to do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is use one of these designs. I'm going to remove this trapunto and put something else in. And I had been playing around with my French curves this morning on just pieces of copy paper. And the first design I came up with is this. And I like this one, but I wanted to just simplify it just a little bit. And so I replaced this motif here with this. I think it gives it a little bit more open look, so I think I'm going to go with this. And my job now is to get rid of all these markings and the water-soluble thread so that I can pull the trapunto batting off. And yet I don't want to mess up this. So I'm going to see how this goes, and I'm going to use some of my rulers to kind of help mask off the rest of the trapunto that I don't want to be removed, and see if I can get this done with a spray bottle. So I just have a spray bottle of water. Okay, I'm going to use my quilting ruler here. So this is all masked off, and we'll see how this works. Well, the water-soluble pen is coming off real easy. Water-soluble thread is still intact, so I'm going to have to switch to some hot water, some warm water, and get rid of that. Okay, here I've got some warm water, and let's see how this works. Yeah, this is working. Okay. This will be good. It's all coming off. It's all dissolving. Set our rulers aside. Okay. I'll flip this over. And you can see the thread I used in the bobbin is just coming right up. Well, maybe you can't see that. That's pretty thin thread. But that is just coming right up. And then that batting is all gone. So I am going to let this dry, and just going to leave it here on my table and let this dry. And then once it's dry, I will put the new design in. So there you go. There's one way that you can remove Trapunto, your Trapunto batting if you need to. Okay, the center panel that I squirted with some warm water to get the old Trapunto out is now dry, and I've pressed it with an iron to make it smooth. You can still see the needle marks from where I quilted that Trapunto bat down. And I went ahead and I drew my registration marks with a ruler and a water-soluble marker. And you may notice up here that some of these blue lines have washed away. And even though I had them masked with a ruler, it was pretty close and some of that water got under there. And it did loosen the thread. It washed away that thread. So the batting is now loose on this side, but it's still secure on the other side, so it'll be okay. It's not going to mess me up any. But I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and draw the stitching line here, just so it'll be more visible to me when I'm quilting, when I'm doing the final quilting on it. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these just to make life a little bit easier, which is always a good thing. And then I'm going to put in the new design. Now my new design is here. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to place this under the quilt and just trace that with my water-soluble marker. And I'm lining up these points here with my markings, and that should center it pretty well. If I have those pretty centered, then it should be okay. And also on this design, I'm going to use a different color of thread. I'm going to use So Fine, but I'm going to use 506. This is a soft green color, and I'm going to do this for the Trapunto as well as the background fill. This is just kind of an experiment for me. I want to see what that looks like. I'm not sure I'm going to do McTavishing in this. I think I'll do something else because there's a lot of you can get a lot of thread buildup with McTavishing. At least I do the way I quilt it. So I want to do something that may not have quite as much backtracking in it, so there isn't as much thread buildup. So I haven't quite decided what I want to do yet, but I like this color. So it's kind of a seafoamy green and kind of a sagey green, I guess. It's a pretty color. So I'm going to try this. Okay, I have all the Trapunto batting quilted and put away on this center section. So this is what we have so far. And if you notice that this is got a lot of loose fabric in it. It's not square right now. So that's because of all the Trapunto in here. So this will be something that I'll have to work out when I get it on the quilt. But here's the front, and then here we have the back. Another thing I did different on this has 2 layers of batting here in the center. The piece of batting that I put on first and loaded onto the machine was not a bonded poly batting, and it started stretching. So what I did was I had a scrap of the batting that I used here, and I went ahead and layered that on top to kind of give it a little more thickness, because that first batting was pretty thin. So we'll see how that turns out. This may have a little more loft to it when we get done, and then again it may look the same, but I will find out when I get it completed. So my next step is to load it on the machine with the backing and the main batting, and I'm going to quilt around all the trapunto and then do the background fill. Now I'm doing the pebbling in the background. This is with the sage green thread, and I am in manual mode here, and I think my speed is probably about 40 to 45% of the motor speed here. And I like to do manual mode for this type of quilting, especially with little pebbles, because it gives a smoother circle, I believe. And the stitches, I can keep them pretty tiny to help with that look. I have the trapunto foot on the machine, and you can see how that helps me get really close to the edges of the trapunto and helps avoid that clouding look that you can get if you don't get that fabric quilted down real tight around that trapunto. So there's really no magic to these. You just make little circles and just trying to get from point A to point B. Fill them in as much as you can, as best you can. And I'm varying the size of the pebbles just a little bit. There's some that are pretty small, and then a lot of them are pretty much the same size. And here's an area that is completed. And I did micro stippling on the inner part of that trapunto around the inner design. And here you can see where a lot of that fullness in the quilt has been quilted out, and I'm going to be doing McTavishing in that outer border area. And here the quilt is, it's completed, and I have it pinned up on my design wall. The McTavishing I did do in white thread, so I have white and the sage green thread in this quilt, and I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.